Sharing voices, building worlds. The Ampliverse.
Welcome to the Autistic Delicatessen.
I think of cooking as an art.
There's nothing most Hispanics love more than a nice little empanada.
Lo que comas, lo que bebas, es tu historia.
This is literally a hug in a bowl.
What's on your plate is how we relate.
And welcome to another edition of the Autistic Delicatessen. I'm Larrnell, along with Shalese, Nikko, and Melissa, and glad to see Melissa back. You can actually check her out on Barbecue Showdown Season 3 on Netflix, so make sure you have your Netflix and watch that. Very interesting to see her do that, so that's the thing, but I'm glad to have her back. Right now, today, our guest is Hargobind Khalsa, and he has a current book out entitled Casa Om Potomac Cookbook, Recipes for Building Community. He's also a yoga instructor and has 2 yoga retreat facilities called Casa Om Mexico and Casa Om Potomac, which is actually in Martinsburg, West Virginia. He also does a podcast called Yoga Retreat Secrets. So, Hargobind, welcome to the Autistic Delicatessen.
Thank you, Larrnell. It's a real pleasure to be here. Pleasure to meet you all. Thanks for having me.
The recipe book of Casa Om Potomac all highlights all the vegan and vegetarian dishes that you serve at the different yoga retreat centers that you have. So, what got you to compile all that into a cookbook?
So I actually learned to cook in the retreat center. And I was just really becoming a student of cooking. And it was sort of out of necessity where I really wanted to provide an extremely high quality experience. I wanted the colors right. I wanted the texture right. I wanted the timing right. And I was having a lot of staffing issues. And one thing I didn't expect when I developed my property in West Virginia was just, I would say, how much of a learning curve I had to create really amazing hospitality experiences for my customers. It was one of those moments where I realized that if I was going to do it the way that I really believed in it, then I needed to really become a chef, become a worker in the kitchen, become a real advocate from leading by example. And so over the last 4 years, I had professional chefs that worked for me. I had actually my ex-wife, who's an amazing chef. She taught me a ton. And then we have an amazing creative kitchen. We just have an open space that we all work in. The customers can talk to us while we prepare the food. It really gave me the chance to have a base of recipes and then be innovating and making all of my recipes better on really a daily basis. So my journey to becoming a chef was the mother of necessity, or whatever that phrase is. And it just put me in that position where A, I had to do an amazing job, and B, I had the flexibility to be creative. So I just started writing everything down that people were teaching me, that I was learning. I started making my own recipes, and I started reading cookbooks, and then eventually put together the actual recipe list of exactly what we prepare. And that's what became Recipes for Building Community. These are all recipes that we do once or twice a week for our different guests. They're all tried and true. They're all made for 12 people. And essentially the argument that I make in the book is that part of preparing an amazing meal is service. And it's the ability, so all the recipes are really for throwing a party or throwing a yoga retreat where you're going to cook for a large group of people. And I think that act of service, that act of presentation, the showmanship, the storytelling is what brings people together and makes people feel well and makes them feel happy. And so, yeah, food is a huge piece of it. But what I advocate through the book is all of these things that surround the meal to create an epic, life-changing experience for someone. So that's kind of what I get into.
It's interesting because that's kind of like how we are on the show of the Autistic Delicatessen in terms of food brings people together. That's what my last co-host Omi has said, because it really does bring community. And one of the chapters that I like in your book was the fact of what it says is never serve something you don't love. So do you want to expound more on what you mean by putting that in the chapter about what that means?
When you go into a restaurant and you ask someone, do you like this? Whether they give you a truthful answer or not is huge. And this came from my ex, where she was like, love is the secret ingredient in cooking. And I always used to talk to her and be like, what does that even mean? And I was, love is such like it's a hard thing to pinpoint, but that statement always resonated with me. And I was like, okay, well, what does that mean? And to me, the way I translated it was timing, that something should come out of the oven and get onto someone's plate as quickly as possible. And every minute that goes by between when the dish is ready and when your customer consumes it decreases the value of that experience. That's something that no one ever told me, and I just observed it serving people. When you go to most restaurants, they're preparing sometimes 3 days in advance and then just reheating your food. That time between when it's prepped and it's reheated destroys the value of the experience dramatically. If you can make something fresh, not frozen, chopped up, seasoned with your unique touch, like when you're paying attention and you deeply care and you have a smile on your face and you are expressing love to your customer just in your intention that you want them to be healthy and feel amazing, like that experience is what will separate your cooking from everybody else on the planet. And so when I say never serve something you don't love, like how you're thinking, whether it's like your timing or even like the way you do the garnish, or whether you think about putting like green cilantro with purple chopped onions on top of a red, enchilada, like those details change the difference between like an average enchilada plate and something that looks beautiful. If you're going to start thinking about your food preparation in that way, even if you're an untrained chef like me, you can dramatically improve your service experience. And so that's what I mean when I say never serve something you don't love, because you can do it sloppy and it takes the same amount of time, or you can do it with so much love and it takes the same amount of time. But the difference in terms of like how we're walking through life is dramatic.
And I like that combination, though. And I wonder, for another untrained chef, Melissa, would you like to add anything to that?
No, everything that you said is food can be very powerful. And I think of it as you have food and then you have a meal, and food is one of the great uniters, and it brings people together, and the love and passion and emotion and the meaning behind what you're serving people, to me, is really sort of the glue, and that's what brings it together. And it's just such a power. I get on this soapbox all the time, but I'm just like, if we could just sit down and share a meal with each other, I think the world would be such a more peaceful place, because it's, even if the only thing you have in common is you both like spaghetti, you have found something in common with someone. But it really is such a powerful thing to share a meal. And in the context of what you're saying, especially as a group, when you talk about healing as a group, and when you're in a retreat center where a lot of that purpose is to heal your body and heal, your physical body, that starts from the inside as well. And I just think it's such a powerful opportunity. So very on board with everything you're saying.
And let me just say that, first of all, I can tell, as someone who likes to try different foods, I can tell when a meal was not prepared with love. I can tell when someone just slapped something together just for the sake of slapping it together and it was no care behind it. And the other thing that I want to point out about the two of you chefs here is the fact that I've always heard people say that the best way to calm, like, let's say you're in a group of people and everyone's going at each other's throats, everyone's walking on eggshells. They say the best way to bring people together, the best way to calm everyone down and bring out the best in people is food. Food calms everyone down and brings out the best in each other.
I'm with you.
And I just feel that when it comes to your book and really how you made these different yoga retreats, that's how really it's the theme is about building community and how it comes together. And do you think it's the same thing for you, Hargobind, to where like it connects with your faith? Because Sikhs are known to be people that serve well, connected to the teachings of Guru Nanak. So do you think that's also an aspect there?
Absolutely. So when I was a kid, I moved to India when I was 12, and I lived between 12. I was there about 5 years, and I lived outside the Golden Temple, and like going and doing seva at the Golden Temple was like a huge part of my childhood and upbringing. And if you're not familiar with the Sikh religion, like we're supposed to have our like temples and then serve people food at the end of our services. And that's like very much like built in, and it doesn't matter if like they come to the service or what their religion is. Like we're just supposed to do that. That's kind of like built into our philosophy. And so when I came back from the United States, I was very much on my own in I would say sort of like a loner lifestyle. And it took me like a bunch of years to kind of figure out, even from my mental health perspective, like what I was struggling with and what I was missing. And so I actually kind of put these two things together, where I loved the concept of seva. I loved the service. I loved the communal aspect of it. And so my businesses really were built on that ethos, that if I could find a way to serve my customers, it would make me much more happy. And that has been kind of a driving force behind my entrepreneurial career, for the last 10 or 15 years. And I've kind of figured it out. Like I do just get so much joy out of like meeting new people, serving them good food, telling them, ridiculous stories, and putting on a show in my own kind of way.
And really, I just like the whole idea of like you mentioning putting on a show. So, Hargobind, like, how do you define like when you're at one of your yoga retreats, whether it's in Mexico or whether it's in West Virginia? What does it mean to have a show? Is it to kind of like have the whole aspect of not just the servant aspect, but more of like the putting together aspect around community? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah. I think I don't mean show in like a superficial show, but I mean show as in presentation, that I want people to come into my retreat centers and feel safe. I want them to come in and feel well nourished. I want them to come in and feel entertained. I want them to come in and feel like this vacation, like our tagline is a better way to vacay. And my argument is that like eating well, hanging out with good people, doing yoga practice, going for a walk in nature, exploring ancient caves, going scuba diving, working out, building strength. Like this is the way, feed your soul, feed your mind, feed your body. This is the better way to vacation. And so that's what I mean by the show, is that like, this is a curated experience where my customers are coming into a world where I'm trying to be as particular as possible with picking out amazing things for them to do and amazing experiences for them to have.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm sure like for both you, Shalese, and Melissa, you can kind of relate to that, because I know like Melissa, with your reels, you kind of build an experience of food when you create, because also just to say, Melissa does this thing called Weird Food Combos. So I don't know if she can mix in vegan and vegetarian. Maybe you can both collaborate. I don't know. But would you be interested?
Oh, absolutely. I'm a big food accessibility person. I think there should be, I love taking one dish and trying to figure out how I can make it accessible for whether it's a food preference or a dietary restriction. I think that there's a way to make it accessible for everyone. But we talked a little bit earlier about Sedona is one of my happy places, and it's one of like the spiritual epicenters. And my best friend and I went a couple of years ago, and we were very mindful because we wanted it to be sort of like a spiritual reset. When we went, we were very mindful about, what we were eating, and, we sort of made a plan. We were there. All right, this is like how our meals are going to go, because we wanted to feel that being cleansed, like from the inside out. And I sort of followed her expertise because she actually trained and received her yoga certification in India as well. So it was a really neat experience, but it's very eye opening when you see how that can translate in so many different aspects of life. But as far as food and cooking and my recipes and things like that, yes, I'm always open to how can I make this into something that everyone can access, no matter what their needs are.
Nice.
Do you have any favorite recipes that you like from the book? Any desserts or any type of like things that you connect with in making as well as eating?
So my favorite absolutely to cook is Indian. Like I just love the sequencing and timing and the flexibility that Indian gives you in terms of timing and sequence. I think it also just connects to my childhood in a way that's so nostalgic. The other thing that I do love is chili guajillo. And using chili guajillo has been fun for me because I learned at first to make an enchilada sauce. And then I learned to make salsa macha, which is like a sesame seed like salsa. But then I realized that I could use a very similar recipe to make harissa for Lebanese food. And then I realized I could use a very similar recipe to make a spicy peanut sauce, which I use in my Thai food. And so it's just been fun for me to like understand a little bit more about base of ingredients and how one thing can become used in all of these different types of food. So that's been fun for me.
And in your recipe book, you have different types of desserts. You have like, you have like also Thai dinners. You have Lebanese dinner, and the snacks. Like, what you have is you have peanut butter chocolate chip bliss balls, almond butter bliss balls, and banana bread. So, would you say like those snacks are kind of like good appetizers for your yoga retreats too, as well?
They're easy. They're fast. They taste amazing. They do have a little bit of sugar in them. You can always drop your sugar levels if you're super conscious of it, but they're so good.
One of the dishes that you put in there is your mother's baked tofu dish. So was that like kind of like a family thing that you did growing up?
So she fed me that dish like 4 days a week because it was like so fast, so easy, and cheap. And so I grew up vegetarian. I've been vegetarian my whole life. I think it has to do some with blood type. I think some with genetics. Like I've been vegetarian for 41 years. I'm 41 years old. I've like never craved protein. I've never craved meat. I've just kind of had like a pretty healthy, steady diet. Something about that baked tofu with liquid aminos and the B vitamins from nutritional yeast, like literally like my diet growing up was baked tofu, steamed vegetables, and rice, and with the liquid aminos and the yeast. And we used to just like pour that stuff on. So it's in the book. It's easy. It's cheap. Even people that don't like tofu seem to really like it. Like you just bake it. It's got, chili peppers. I do sometimes some sesame oil and some coconut aminos just to make it more interesting, but it's so cheap. It's so fast. It's so easy. I can't, I got nothing bad to say about it.
Oh, okay. All right. That's understandable though, because my experiences with tofu growing up, like, of course, like with having a special diet, because me being autistic, tofu products weren't always the best. Because basically Hargobind, like we're kind of like around the same age. I just turned 40. So it's just, I remember back in the days, like particularly like probably like the early 90s and all that stuff, to where at the health food stores and even the tofu dogs or something like that, they weren't really great.
Yeah, vegetarian, I think for our generation growing up basically meant the good, like take away all the good stuff and leave the junk and we'll give it to us.
I remember the first time I tried it, I was having stir fry in college, and normally my college dining hall made the best stir fry, but when I tried the tofu version, it tasted like a sponge. I'm not going to lie.
No, people do tofu so badly. They really do. I mean, try that recipe. Try my mom's baked tofu. See, tell me what you think of it. It's so easy. It's so fast. I'll be curious if you like it. Just make sure that you grill it long enough. But even now, I just put it on broil. I just slice it. I put it in the oven. I hit broil. I come back 5 minutes later, and then I got 40 grams of protein. I like how it tastes. It's got no fat. It's super easy, and it's fast. And yeah, I still like it after all these years. So you all have to let me know how you like it.
So I'm sure probably either like Shalese or Melissa, since these are more of the cooks. I'm more of like just the person that eats and all that stuff. So it's like they would have to like let you know, or at least like Melissa maybe come out with a video or something like that and try one of the recipes and then just be honest, either way or something.
Yeah.
I love that.
My daughter complains about my food all the time. So don't. If it's terrible, just tell us. You guys I'll introduce you to her and you can click.
Wow, I'm sure your daughter will have a nice connection with Shalese though, because she's very honest with your stuff. She'll just tell you like, "Let me tell you what I think of this." Yes,
I'm going to try it just so I can tell you about it.
Yes, and Hargobind, like maybe you should channel that, kind of like inner type of peace with your religion.
Yeah, they have, so I took my daughter to Gurdwara. So Gurdwaras are all vegetarian, and so I took her when she was like 4. And we're like sitting there, and it's like the best Indian food. It's so good. And so I was like, no, eat the dal, eat this. And she screams at the top of her lungs. She's like, I want chicken.
That's amazing.
So here we go.
Yeah. Yes. I'm sure like Melissa, like, since she also has kids, has never taken them to a Gurdwara knowing that maybe my boys will not like that. It's like, I'm just going to, no.
Wait for them to get a little older and maybe they'll appreciate it. Gurdwaras are amazing. I mean, they're really sweet, try and the food's usually fantastic. Like everybody does a nice job there.
If me, Shalese, and Nikko and Melissa ever come to like one of your retreat centers, whether it's in Mexico or whether it's in West Virginia, what would be your recommendations and what menus would you have out for us?
So what's awesome about cooking in the retreat center is so it's not like you order off the menu. We prepare the meal. We set the menu. If you have dietary restrictions, then we accommodate for whatever you like. But what's amazing is like the way that I look at it is like, this is the best I can do. Like, I'm going to make you the absolute best thing, and then I'm going to serve it to you. And so that is how we set our menus. What I've realized in my own experience with cooking is like, you go into a lot of restaurants, the chefs don't like 30% of the things on the menu. And so they're back there trying to cook for somebody. And it's not like I'm an expert. I walked into the restaurant. How would I know what I want? Like, I don't work here. Like, what is the best thing on the menu? Oftentimes, if you ask a chef, what's the best thing on the menu? They're going to make you their thing that's the favorite. And all of us that are chefs know that we're better at certain things and worse at certain things. And so that's how we've built our culture in our retreat centers, is we're literally just going to do the best that we can to serve you. Now, at Casa Om Potomac, the exact menu that you're going to get is from the book. So everything, all of those recipes in the book are things that I make over and over and over, that my staff makes over and over and over. And I'm always preaching, let's keep getting better. Let's keep adding things in. Let's keep improving our offering. But that is what you're going to get. We don't have a menu book done for Mexico. We've been talking about that. And Carmina is actually a far better chef than I am. She's classically trained. She's been doing it longer. She's incredible. And she's always tinkering with her menus. I mean, in Mexico, it's mostly Mexican food based, but she makes really nice Lebanese. She makes really nice falafel. She makes really nice Indian. She's very talented in her own right. So you'll get a little bit of a different menu at our Mexico location, but you'll see kind of a lot of similarities as well.
And honestly, I've had like vegan falafel at certain places, even around here in Tampa and St. Pete, though. So like falafel like from my experience, has been a good taste though. You know, like as one of those like I think Arabian or Middle Eastern dishes though. You know, so
Yeah.
Shalese and Melissa, have you ever had falafel?
One of my favorites.
Shalese.
I don't like falafel. Nope.
Okay.
Yes, I
Oh
said what I said.
well, on this show, we're all different. That's what it is. So, Hargobind, we thank you so much for being on the show. So, how should people be able to purchase the cookbook, the Casa Om Potomac Cookbook recipes for
Easiest is on
building?
Amazon. That's the easiest. You can also get them at our locations, but for the most part, we publish it, put it on Amazon. And if you get it, leave a review. That would be amazing. Spread the word on it. That would be super cool. Yeah, that's the best.
And also, I'd just like to mention, if you want to know more about like Hargobind's other yoga retreats and centers, go on casaom.com. That's the Mexico one. Go to casaompotomac.com. That's also the place in West Virginia. So we can follow you on Instagram too, right?
Yeah, certainly. Yeah, that's how we connected. I'm Harg Yoga, and I'm happy to make the connection there. So please do be in touch. I'm always trying to refine my techniques, and so it's fun. It's fun for me to be having those conversations with people.
So, Hargobind, we'd like to thank you so much for coming on to the Autistic Delicatessen and really just showing our audience, and even ones who are listening, really what it means to make like good vegan and vegetarian foods and how it could connect to like spirituality and Sikhism, as well as, like it can be probably a yoga practice too.
Absolutely.
Thanks for watching or listening to the Autistic Delicatessen. Like and subscribe on YouTube for updates on when a new episode comes out, and be sure to watch past episodes on the Autistic Delicatessen YouTube channel as well. Listen to current and past audio podcast episodes on Spotify or at the Ampliverse website. Be sure to follow the show on Instagram by searching The Autistic Delicatessen. And until next time, what's on your plate is how we relate.